Hey fellow nerds, today we are going to learn analysis of LTI systems using Laplace transform. First we will learn what is transfer function, then we will learn how to check the causality of LTI systems and stability of LTI systems using Laplace transform, and then analysis of LTI systems characterized by differential equations using Laplace transform. Let us start by taking the time domain representation of a system. H of t is the impulse response of the system, x of t is the input, and y of t is the output. We know how these three are related. Y of t is the convolution of x of t and h of t. Let us now represent the same system in S domain. The behavior of the system is specified by h of s, and h of s is the Laplace transform of h of t. X of s is the input, it is the Laplace transform of x of t. Y of s is the output, which is the Laplace transform of y of t. We know how these three are related. Y of s is equal to the product of x of s and h of s. In time domain, y of t is the convolution of x of t and h of t. So we can write y of t is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau h of t minus tau d tau. But we know the order of convolution does not matter. Convolution of x of t and h of t is the same as convolution of h of t and x of t. So this will be equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity h of tau x of t minus tau d tau. Now assume that we are giving an input x of t and x of t is equal to e raised to st. Then y of t will become integral from minus infinity to infinity h of tau e raised to s t minus tau d tau. Since x of t is e raised to st, x of t minus tau will be e raised to s t minus tau. Now e raised to s into t minus tau can be written as e raised to st multiplied by e raised to minus s tau. The integration is with respect to the variable tau, so e raised to st can come out of the integration. Now what we have over here is integral from minus infinity to infinity h of tau e raised to minus s tau d tau. We know it doesn't matter what we are calling the variable to which we are going to give the limit, which is tau here. I'm just going to call it t. So technically what you got over here is integral from minus infinity to infinity h of t e raised to minus st dt, which is nothing but h of s, the Laplace transform of the impulse function h of t. So we can write y of t is equal to e raised to st times h of s, or h of s times e raised to st. The most interesting thing here is our x of t was e raised to st and y of t is h of s multiplied by e raised to st itself. Now, a signal for which the system's output is a constant multiplied by the input is called the eigenfunction of the system. So, e raised to st is the eigenfunction of this system that we have over here. Similarly, the amplitude factor is called eigenvalue. So over here, h of s will be the eigenvalue of our LTI system. Let us conclude what we learned. For an input x of t that is e raised to st, the output we got is h of s multiplied by e raised to st. So we called e raised to st the eigenfunction of LTI system and h of s the eigenvalue. H of s is the Laplace transform of h of t, that is integral from minus infinity to infinity h of t e raised to minus st dt. It is called the transfer function or the system function. Assume that the ROC of h of s includes the imaginary axis, that is sigma equal to 0 is a possible value. Then for sigma equal to 0 or s is equal to j omega, h of s, which is actually h of sigma plus j omega because s is sigma plus j omega, will simply become h of j omega. H of j omega is the Fourier transform of the impulse function h of t. And h of j omega is called the frequency response of the system. Let us now learn how to check the causality of an LTI system using Laplace transform. Let us start by defining a causal system. A system is causal if its output only depends on the present and past values of the input. It is not supposed to depend on any of the future inputs. We have also learned before that impulse response of a causal continuous time system should satisfy the condition that h of t is equal to 0 for t less than 0. That is, h of t can only have non-zero values when t is greater than or equal to 0, which means for a causal LTI system, h of t has to be a right-sided signal. And we know for a right-sided signal, ROC of its Laplace transform will be a right half plane. It is going to be towards the right of the rightmost pole. Does that mean the only condition for an LTI system to be causal is that the ROC of its transfer function should be towards the right of the rightmost pole? Well, it's actually not true. There is one more thing we have to understand. ROC being to the right of the rightmost pole does not guarantee that the system is causal. It only guarantees that the h of t is right-sided. The system is causal only if the h of s is also rational. So there are two conditions for a system to be causal. First is its transfer function h of s should be rational. That is, it should be a ratio of two polynomials on S. And the impulse function h of t should be right-sided. Let us solve some questions to understand this better. First, we have to find the causality of a system whose impulse response is given. H of t is e raised to minus t u of t. Impulse response is e raised to minus t u of t. Since there is u of t, obviously h of t only has non-zero values from 0 to infinity. So we can say that it is right-sided. So h of t here is equal to 0 for all t that is less than 0, which means our system is causal. Now let us check if this satisfies the two conditions. Let's write down the transfer function of the system h of s. H of s is the Laplace transform of h of t, which is e raised to minus t u of t. Its Laplace transform will be 1 by s plus 1, sigma being greater than minus 1. H of s is 1 by s plus 1. It is a rational function. And ROC is towards the right of the rightmost pole. It only has one pole, it is at minus 1. And sigma is greater than minus 1 means ROC is towards the right of the rightmost pole. So both conditions have been satisfied. And so the system is causal. Let us take another question. We have to check the causality of a system whose impulse response is e raised to minus mod of t. Here h of t is e raised to minus mod of t. When we take modulus of t, for t less than 0 it is minus t, and for t greater than or equal to 0 it is t. So we can write it like this: e raised to minus of minus t when t is less than 0. So we'll multiply it with u of minus t plus e raised to minus of plus t for t greater than 0. So we'll write u of t with it. Now minus of minus t is plus t. So the impulse response of this system is actually e raised to t u of minus t plus e raised to minus t u of t. Here obviously h of t is not equal to 0 for t less than 0. Therefore, the system is not supposed to be causal. Let us now check the two conditions we learned. For that we need h of s. We know Laplace transform of e raised to minus a t u of t is 1 by s plus a with sigma greater than minus a. And for minus e raised to minus a t u of minus t, it is again 1 by s plus a but with sigma less than minus a. The first part over here is of this form and the second part is of this form. So we can write, so let us write h of s. The first term is e raised to t u of minus t. Comparing with this, we can see that a is minus 1 and there is a negative over here. So its Laplace transform is going to be minus of 1 by s minus 1 plus. The second one is e raised to minus t u of t. Comparing it with here, we can see a is 1. The second term is e raised to minus t u of t. It is of this form. Comparing, we can see a is 1. So its Laplace transform is going to be 1 by s plus 1. So the transfer function of this LTI system is minus 1 by s minus 1 plus 1 by s plus 1. Obviously, it is a rational function. This satisfies the first condition that h of s should be rational. Let us check ROC. For the first one, sigma less than minus a, and a is minus 1 here. So ROC is sigma less than minus of minus 1 or 1. For the second part, sigma should be greater than minus a is 1 there. So sigma greater than minus 1. So for the transfer function h of s, sigma should be greater than minus 1 and less than 1. So it is between two poles 1 and minus 1, not towards the right of the rightmost pole. So it does not satisfy the second condition that ROC should be to the right of the rightmost pole. So it should not be causal, which is exactly what we have found here. The system is not causal. Let us take another example. We have to check the causality of a system whose transfer function is e raised to s by s plus 1, sigma greater than minus 1. Here the transfer function is directly given. The transfer function obviously only has one pole and it is at s equal to minus 1. And sigma is greater than minus 1. So ROC is towards the right of the rightmost pole. The first condition is satisfied. Now, if you look at the transfer function, the denominator is a polynomial, but the numerator is not a polynomial. So h of s is not rational. Therefore, the system should not be causal, but let us check it in our own way. For that, we will find the impulse function of the LTI system by taking inverse Laplace transform of h of s. We know Laplace transform of e raised to minus at u of t is 1 by s plus a, with sigma being greater than minus a. Let us put a is equal to 1. Then Laplace transform of e raised to minus t u of t will be 1 by s plus 1 with sigma being greater than minus 1. The transfer function that we have over here is e raised to s multiplied by 1 by s plus 1. Using time shifting property, we have learned before that if x of s is the Laplace transform of x of t, then the Laplace transform of x of t minus t naught is e raised to minus s t naught x of s. Assume this is our x of t. Then this is our x of s. What we want is e raised to s multiplied by s plus 1. If you want e raised to minus s t naught multiplied by x of s, you need to take x of t minus t naught. So compare this with e raised to s. We can see that t naught is minus 1. So put t naught is equal to minus 1 so that we can get the inverse Laplace transform of e raised to s multiplied by 1 by s plus 1. Inverse Laplace transform of e raised to minus s t naught x of s is x of t minus t naught. Here t naught is minus 1. So this will be x of t minus of minus 1 or t plus 1. X of t is e raised to minus t u of t. So x of t plus 1 is e raised to minus t plus 1 u of t plus 1. ROC is supposed to be the same as that for x of s. So we'll write sigma greater than minus 1 just as we got here for x of s. What we got over here is the inverse Laplace transform of h of s. So that is our h of t or impulse response. Impulse response h of t is e raised to minus of t plus 1 u of t plus 1. U of t plus 1 is a shifted version of u of t. It has non-zero values from minus 1 to infinity. The condition for an LTI system to be causal is that its impulse response h of t should be 0 for all values of t that is less than 0. But obviously here h of t is not equal to 0 for t between minus 1 and 0. So we can conclude that the system is not causal. In the first example, transfer function was rational and ROC was towards the right of the rightmost pole, and we got the system is causal. In the second example, h of s was rational, but ROC was not to the right of the rightmost pole, and we got the system is not causal. In the third example, ROC was towards the right of the rightmost pole, but h of s was not rational. So, what we can conclude from here is this. A continuous time LTI system is causal if two conditions are satisfied. H of s is rational and ROC of H of s is to the right of the rightmost pole. That is, ROC being towards the right of the rightmost pole doesn't alone guarantee us the causality of the system. That only guarantees us that H of t is right sided, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is a causal system. The explanation for this is very simple. Consider we have the impulse response of a system and it is non-zero from -3 to infinity. Obviously, this is a right-sided signal. But h of t is not 0 for all values of t less than 0. From -3 to 0, it does have non-zero values. So here h of t is right-sided, but the system will not be causal. That is why we have two conditions. ROC of the H of s should be towards the right of the rightmost pole. Also, H of s should be rational. Let us now define anti-causal and non-causal systems as well. A continuous time LTI system with rational transfer function is called anti-causal if its impulse response satisfies this condition. H of t is equal to 0 for all t greater than 0. So it is the exact opposite of a causal system. For a causal system, h of t is equal to 0 for all t less than 0. Here the impulse response h of t is going to be a left-sided signal. So the ROC of its transfer function is going to be a left half plane. Also, we can say that an LTI system is called anti-causal if its output only depends on the present and future values of the input. It is exactly the opposite of a causal system. Now, assume there is a continuous time LTI system whose output depends on the past, present, and future inputs, then we can call it a non-causal system. Let us now learn how to check the stability of an LTI system using Laplace transform. When we discuss the properties of LTI systems, we have learned that an LTI system is stable if its impulse response is absolutely integrable. That is, if you integrate impulse response from -infinity to infinity, you should get a finite value. But if you have a function x of t and you're integrating it from -infinity to infinity, that is integral from -infinity to infinity x of t dt, and it is less than infinity, which means it is a finite value, then this is also the condition for Fourier transform of the function x of t to exist. Let us apply that here. Assume a system is stable, which means the impulse response is absolutely integrable. Then that must mean that its Fourier transform converges to a finite value, that is, its Fourier transform exists. But we also know one more thing. For the Fourier transform of a function to exist, its Laplace transform should have sigma equal to 0 or consequently j omega axis in its ROC. Let us write it down. For Fourier transform to converge, ROC of the Laplace transform of the function should include sigma equal to 0 or consequently the j omega axis. Using all of these, we can conclude one thing. For an LTI system to be stable, the ROC of the Laplace transform of its impulse function should include sigma equal to 0 or j omega axis. Or we can say that if an LTI system is stable, its transfer function should have sigma equal to 0 or j omega axis in its ROC. Let us solve a problem based on this. We have to check the stability of an LTI system whose transfer function is given. H of s is s minus 1 divided by s plus 1 into s minus 2. Let us start by using partial fraction expansion on this. H of s is s minus 1 divided by s plus 1 multiplied by s minus 2. We have to write it in this form: a divided by s plus 1 plus b divided by s minus 2. Here a will be equal to limit s tends to the pole corresponding to a is -1. So s tends to minus 1, s plus 1 multiplied by h of s. So this is going to be limit s tends to minus 1. S plus 1 multiplied by h of s will be s minus 1 divided by s minus 2. Giving the value minus 1 to s, we get 2 by 3. So a is 2 by 3. Same way, let's try to find b. It will be limit s tends to pole corresponding to b is plus 2. So s tends to 2, s minus 2 multiplied by h of s. We get limit s tends to 2, s minus 2 multiplied by h of s is s minus 1 divided by s plus 1. Giving the value 2 to s, this is going to be 1 by 3. So b is 1 by 3. So h of s is 2 by 3 into s plus 1 plus 1 by 3 into s minus 2. The important thing here is the question has not given us the ROC of this function. They have only given the algebraic expression. All we can see is there is a 0 at plus 1, there is a pole at minus 1, another pole at plus 2. Let us mark all of these on an S-plane. Obviously, there are three options for ROC. It could be towards the left of minus 1, it could be between minus 1 and 2, it could be towards the right of 2. Let us consider the first one, sigma is less than minus 1. Will the system be causal, anti-causal or non-causal? Obviously, h of s is a rational function. It has a polynomial in its numerator and denominator. So the first condition is satisfied. The second condition is that its ROC should be towards the right of the rightmost pole. But here it is towards the left of the leftmost pole. And that is the condition for LTI system to be anti-causal. So if the ROC is sigma less than minus 1, our system is anti-causal. Now let's check the stability. The condition for stability is that the ROC should contain sigma equal to 0 or consequently the j omega axis. Obviously, if sigma is less than minus 1, sigma equal to 0 is not included, j omega axis is not included. So this system will be unstable. Let us try to write the impulse response h of t in this case. If sigma is less than minus 1, then both these should be left-sided. So we get, for the first term, 2 by 3 multiplied by inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 1 if sigma is less than minus 1 is minus e raised to minus t u of minus t. Plus, for the second term, 1 by 3 multiplied by, we know inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 2 if it is left-sided is minus e raised to minus 2t u of minus t. But what we have over here is 1 by s minus 2. So it will be minus e raised to plus 2t u of minus t. Let's write it down. We get 1 by 3 times minus e raised to 2t u of minus t. Combining the two terms, we can write it like this. Let us take the second case, sigma between minus 1 and 2. Minus 1 less than sigma less than 2. Let us check the causality first. H of s is rational, first condition is satisfied. But ROC is between minus 1 and 2. It is not towards the right of the rightmost pole. It is also not towards the left of the leftmost pole. So this system is non-causal. To check if the system is stable, we have to check if sigma equal to 0 or the j omega axis is included in the ROC. So ROC is from minus 1 to 2. Obviously, sigma equal to 0 is included. J omega axis is included. So the system is stable. Let's write its impulse response. For ROC to be -1 and 2, the part that has pole -1 should have ROC towards right. That is 2 by 3 into s plus 1 should have an inverse Laplace transform that is right-sided. Also, the one that has pole 2 should be left-sided. So 1 by 3 into s minus 2 should have an inverse Laplace transform that is left-sided. So let's write for the first one. 2 by 3 multiplied by inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 1 if it is right-sided is e raised to minus t u of t plus 1 by 3 times inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s minus 2 if it is left-sided is minus e raised to 2t u of minus t. Let's take the third case where sigma is towards the right of the pole 2. Sigma is greater than 2. Checking for the causality, h of s is rational and ROC is towards the right of the rightmost pole. So the system is causal. Checking for stability, we can see sigma equal to 0 or the j omega axis is not included in the ROC. So the system is unstable. Let us write h of t, impulse response of this function. We need both the signals to be right-sided. So for the first one, we get 2 by 3 multiplied by inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 1 if it is right-sided is e raised to minus t u of t plus 1 by 3 times inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s minus 2 if it is right-sided is e raised to 2t u of t. Combining the terms, we can write like this. H of t is 2 by 3 e raised to minus t plus 1 by 3 e raised to 2t u of t. So the conclusion we can make from here is that an LTI system with rational transfer function can be stable if its ROC contains the j omega axis. For example, in the last question, our transfer function was s minus 1 by s plus 1 into s minus 2. We had three options for ROCs. When sigma is less than -1 in the first case, we got the system is unstable. In the second case where sigma is between -1 and 2, we found it was stable. In the third case where sigma is greater than 2, again it is unstable. An important point we have to note here is that this doesn't mean a system has to have a rational transfer function for it to be stable. An LTI system with irrational transfer function can also be stable. As an example, let us take an LTI system whose transfer function is e raised to s divided by s plus 1. This is from a problem we solved before. We saw that it is the Laplace transform of e raised to minus of t plus 1 u of t plus 1 and its ROC is sigma greater than -1. The condition for a system to be stable is that its h of t should be absolutely integrable. If we take integral from minus infinity to infinity, e raised to minus of t plus 1, u of t plus 1 dt, u of t plus 1 is 0 from minus infinity to -1 and from -1 to infinity it is 1. So instead of integrating from minus infinity to infinity, we can just integrate from -1 to infinity. Also from -1 to infinity, u of t plus 1 is just 1, so we can remove it. Integrating this, e raised to minus of t plus 1 can be written like this, e raised to minus t into e raised to minus 1. E raised to minus 1 is 1 by e, it is a constant, it can come out of the integration. Now let's do the integration. 1 by e times integral of e raised to minus t is minus of e raised to minus t, giving the limit from -1 to infinity. So this becomes minus 1 by e. Giving the upper limit, we get e raised to minus infinity, which is 0. So 0 minus, giving the lower limit, e raised to minus of -1, that is e raised to 1 or e. So this is actually 1 by e multiplied by e or 1. That means the impulse function of our system is absolutely integrable and the system has to be stable even though its transfer function is not rational. So the transfer function being rational is not a condition for the system to be stable. What we learned here is that if the system has a rational transfer function, then to check if it is stable or not, you can just see if j omega axis is there in the ROC. If it is there, it is stable. If it is not there, it is not stable. Another thing we can note here is this. A causal LTI system with rational transfer function can be stable if and only if all of the poles of H of S lie in the left half of the S plane. If the poles lie in the left half, then all poles will have negative real parts. That is, sigma is going to be less than 0. To explain this, let us take two examples. We have two S planes. The first one shows the ROC of a signal and the other one shows the ROC of another signal. The first one has two poles, one at 1 and the other at -2. The second one has two poles, one is at -1, the other is at -2. It is given that the systems we are taking are causal. And for a causal system, ROC has to be towards the right of the rightmost pole. So for the first one, it will look like this. And for the second one, it will look like this. For an LTI system with rational transfer function, to check if it is stable or not, all we have to check is if j omega axis is included or if sigma equal to 0 is included. In the first case, sigma equal to 0 is not included. In the second case, it is included. So the first one is unstable, the second one is stable. You can see in the first one, there is a pole on the right half plane. For the second one, the poles are all on the left half plane. What would happen if we had a pole over here? Then since this is causal, the ROC will have to be towards the right of the rightmost pole, which is this now. And then it will not contain j omega axis. That is what we have written over here. A causal LTI system with rational transfer function can be stable if and only if all the poles lie in the left half of the S plane, like we can see over here. And consequently, since they are all on the left side, their real parts are going to be negative, like -2 and -1. Let us note this down. For a causal LTI system, ROC of the transfer function is to the right of the rightmost pole. So if there is a pole on the right half, then ROC will not contain the j omega axis. And because of that, the system will not be stable. Let us solve a problem based on this. We have to check the stability of an LTI system whose impulse response is given. The first one has an impulse response e raised to -t u of t. The second one has e raised to 2t u of t. Let's take the first one. There is u of t here. U of t is 1 from 0 to infinity only. So obviously h of t here is right-sided. That means h of t is equal to 0 for all t that is less than 0, which is the condition for a system to be causal. We just learned that for a causal system to also be stable, the condition is all its poles should be on the left half of the S plane. So let us write the Laplace transform of e raised to -t u of t so we can see where all the poles are. Laplace transform of e raised to -t u of t is 1 by s plus 1. Its sigma is greater than -1. It has only one pole and it is at -1. So we can conclude that the system is also stable. In the next question, we have h of t is equal to e raised to 2t u of t. Here also h of t is right-sided, and since h of t is equal to 0 for all values of t that is less than 0, we can conclude the system is causal. And for a causal LTI system to be stable, the only condition is all the poles should be on the left half of S plane. To check that, let us take the Laplace transform of e raised to 2t u of t. It will be 1 by s minus 2 and ROC is sigma greater than 2. This only has one pole and it is at +2. Since the rightmost pole is at s equal to 2 and the system is causal, the ROC will have to be towards the right of 2, which means it will not include the j omega axis, so the system is unstable. Now that we know how to check the causality and stability of LTI systems whose impulse response or transfer function is given, let us move on to the next concept. We have already learned that continuous time systems can be characterized by linear constant coefficient differential equations. For example, dy of t by dt plus ay of t is equal to bx of t. Let us now learn to analyze the systems that are represented by linear constant coefficient differential equations just like this one. Let us start by solving a problem. An LTI system is characterized by the differential equation dy of dt by dt plus 3y of t is equal to x of t. We have to check its causality. The first thing we need to do is find its transfer function. For that, we have to take the Laplace transform of the differential equation. Laplace transform of dy of t by dt is sy of s plus 3 times Laplace transform of y of t is y of s. This is equal to Laplace transform of x of t, which is x of s. So we get y of s multiplied by s plus 3 is equal to x of s. Therefore, the transfer function h of s, which is defined as y of s divided by x of s, is 1 by s plus 3. Now the problem here is we have the algebraic expression 1 by s plus 3. We don't have the ROC. A differential equation can only give us the algebraic expression of the transfer function. There is one pole, it is at s equal to minus 3. Let us plot it on an S-plane. We have two options for ROC. Either sigma can be less than minus 3 or it can be greater than minus 3. But before that, one thing we can notice is h of s is 1 by s plus 3. It is a rational function. So if I take the ROC to be sigma greater than minus 3, that means the ROC is towards the right of the rightmost pole and my system will be causal. So if sigma is greater than minus 3, the system given is a causal system. Then we can write its impulse function h of t, which is the inverse Laplace transform of h of s 1 by s plus 3. Inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 3, if it is right-sided, is e raised to minus 3t u of t. Now, if I take ROC to be sigma less than minus 3, then my ROC is towards the left of the leftmost pole. That means the system is anticausal. So, if sigma is less than minus 3, the system is anticausal. Let us write its impulse response in that case. H of t is the inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 3 when it is left-sided. So, it is going to be minus e raised to minus 3t u of minus t. Now, in this example, we took an LTI system that is characterized by a first order differential equation. Let us generalize this. Assume that on the left hand side of the equation, we have up to nth derivative of y of t, and on the right hand side of the equation, we have up to mth derivative of x of t. An is the coefficient of nth derivative of y of t. An minus 1 is that of n minus 1th derivative. Going on like that, a1 is that of the first derivative, a0 is that of y of t. Similarly, on the other side, we have bm for mth derivative, bm minus 1 for m minus 1th derivative, going on b1 for first derivative and b0 for x of t. I am going to change the order of these terms. I'll write a0 y of t first and then this one, and then at last this one on the left hand side. On the right hand side, I'll write this one first and then this one and finally this one. So it will look like this. Let us try to write this as a summation. The left hand side can be written like this: summation from k equal to 0 to n, ak multiplied by d raised to k by dt raised to k of y of t. And the right hand side can be written like this: summation from k equal to 0 to m bk d raised to k by dt raised to k x of t. If I give k equal to 0, I will get a0 d raised to 0 by dt raised to 0 means we are not taking derivative at all. You are just taking y of t. So first term is a0 y of t. If I give k equal to 1, I will get a1 d by dt y of t. And that is my second term over here. So we got summation from k equals 0 to n a k d raised to k by dt raised to k y of t is equal to summation from k equal to 0 to m bk d raised to k by dt raised to k x of t is the general representation for an LTI system as a linear constant coefficient differential equation. From the differentiation property we have learned before, the Laplace transform of d by dt of x of t is Sx of s and ROC contains R. Assume I want to find out the Laplace transform of d square by dt square of x of t. This is actually the derivative of this one. So its Laplace transform is going to be s multiplied by its Laplace transform, which is Sx of s. So I will get s square x of s. Using this idea, I can simply say that the Laplace transform for d raised to n by dt raised to n of x of t, that is the nth derivative of x of t, is going to be s raised to n multiplied by Laplace transform of x of t. And ROC will contain R. Let us bring back the general linear constant coefficient differential equation. Let us apply this property over here. Taking Laplace transform, the first term, which is a0 multiplied by y of t, will simply become a0 multiplied by y of s, plus the next term is a1 multiplied by first derivative of y of t, that will become a1 multiplied by sy of s. Over here, if we take the n minus 1th term, a n minus 1 with n minus 1th derivative of y of t, its Laplace transform will be a n minus 1 multiplied by s raised to n minus 1 y of s, plus the Laplace transform of the last term will be a n multiplied by s raised to n y of s. This is equal to, on the right hand side, we have b0 x of t, whose Laplace transform is b0 x of s. Similarly, for the next one, we'll get b1 sx of s. It goes like that, and for the m minus 1th one, we get bm minus 1 s raised to m minus 1 x of s. And the last one is bm s raised to m x of s. We can write it as a summation. The left hand side will become like this. Summation from k equals 0 to n a k s raised to k y of s. This is equal to summation from k equals 0 to m b k s raised to k x of s. Now, an interesting thing is happening over here. The summation is with respect to k on both sides. Y of s is a function of s, x of s is also a function of s. So they don't have to be inside the summation. To show that, I will put brackets like this. So we got summation from k equals 0 to n a k s raised to k multiplied by y of s is equal to summation from k equals 0 to m b k s raised to k multiplied by x of s. We can easily write the transfer function from here. Transfer function is the ratio of y of s and x of s. From what we have over here, it will be summation from k equals 0 to m b k s raised to k divided by summation from k equals 0 to n a k s raised to k. Let us now make some observations for a system that is specified by a linear constant coefficient differential equation based on what we just learned. The first one is that h of s is always going to be rational. Let us see the numerator. If you give k equal to 0, you get b0 s raised to 0, which is 1. Plus, if you give 1, you get b1 s. Then you will get b2 s square plus b3 s cube. This is a polynomial. Similarly, the denominator will be a0 plus a1s plus a2s square plus a3s cube, like that. It is also going to be a polynomial. So h of s is a ratio of two polynomials, which means it is rational all the time. The second thing we can observe is this. The poles of h of s, the transfer function, are at the solutions of summation from k equal to 0 to m bk is raised to k is equal to 0, which is obvious because what we call poles are the values which makes the denominator equal to 0. So wherever this becomes equal to 0, we have a pole there. Similarly, the zeros of the transfer function are at the solutions of summation from k equal to 0 to n ak is raised to k equal to 0, wherever the numerator becomes 0. Let us now solve a problem. Here we have to find the transfer function of the circuit given. The first thing we need to do is to specify this circuit using a linear constant coefficient differential equation. Input is the voltage given over here, x of t. Y of t is the output. It is taken across a capacitor of capacitance C. We have a resistor R and an inductor L. Current in the circuit is called I. Since it is a function of time, let's call it I of t. We have a capacitor of capacitance C. Potential across it is Y of t and current passing through it is I of t. So we can write the current that is passing through the capacitor I of t will be equal to C dy of t by dt. Using this expression for I of t, let us write the potential across R. VR as a function of time will be I of t multiplied by R. So we will get RC dy of t by dt. The same way, let us find the voltage across L. VL of t will be L di by dt. So it will be L multiplied by the derivative of C dy of t by dt, that will be C multiplied by t square y of t by dt square. So we get LC multiplied by d square y of t by dt square. The voltage across the capacitor is already given in the question. It is our output y of t. Let us apply KVL in the circuit. The sum of voltage across the resistance VR of t and voltage across the inductor VL of t plus the voltage across the capacitor Y of t is going to be equal to the applied voltage X of t. But VR of t is RC dy of t by dt plus VL of t is LC d square y of t by dt plus y of t is equal to x of t. This one has the higher order differential, so we'll put it over here. The question is to find the transfer function. For that we have to apply Laplace transform. Then we get LC multiplied by Laplace transform of d square y of t by dt is s square y of s plus RC multiplied by Laplace transform of dy of t by dt is sy of s plus Laplace transform of y of t is y of s. This is equal to Laplace transform of x of t, x of s. So we can write y of s multiplied by s square LC plus s RC plus 1 is equal to x of s. What we want is h of s. H of s is y of s divided by x of s. So we get h of s is equal to 1 divided by s square LC plus sRC plus 1. To represent it in a better way, let us take h of s and from the denominator let us take LC out. The first term becomes s square plus the second term becomes s into r by L plus the third term becomes 1 by LC. Let us solve another problem. We have to check the stability and causality of an LTI system whose input and output are given. x of t is e raised to minus 3t u of t, y of t is e raised to minus t minus e raised to minus 2t u of t. First, let us write the Laplace transform of x of t. X of s will be 1 by s plus 3. Since it is right-sided, sigma is greater than minus 3. Similarly, we can write y of s. The first term is e raised to minus t u of t. Its Laplace transform is 1 by s plus 1 minus the second term is e raised to minus 2t u of t. Its Laplace transform is 1 by s plus 2. For the first one, sigma will be greater than minus 1. For the second one, sigma will be greater than minus 2. For the combined function, ROC is going to be the intersection of these two, that is sigma greater than minus 1. Again, 1 by s plus 1 minus 1 by s plus 2 will be equal to s plus 2 minus s plus 1 divided by s plus 1 into s plus 2, that is 1 divided by s plus 1 multiplied by s plus 2. ROC is sigma greater than minus 1. What we want is the transfer function h of s, which is the ratio of y of s to x of s. So it will be s plus 3 divided by s plus 1 multiplied by s plus 2. To get h of s, what we did is divide y of s by x of s. But we haven't learned what happens to ROC when we divide a function with another function. Which means, in short, we don't know the ROC of h of s. We have to figure it out. Let us take y of s. Y of s is the product of h of s and x of s. Now, this is multiplication. And from multiplication property, we have learned ROC of the product y of s should contain the intersection of ROCs of x of s and h of s. Here h of s has two poles, one at s equal to minus 1, the other at s equal to minus 2. Let us plot them on an s-plane. Obviously, we have three options for ROC. Sigma can be less than minus 2, can be between minus 2 and minus 1, can be greater than minus 1. Consider the first case, sigma is less than minus 2. We already have the ROC of x of s over here. It is sigma greater than minus 3. So ROC of h of s is sigma less than minus 2 and that of x of s is sigma greater than minus 3. Both these ROCs overlap between minus 3 and minus 2. So we can write the intersection of ROC of x of s and ROC of h of s. This is the range from minus 3 to minus 2. But according to multiplication property, ROC of y of s should contain the intersection of ROCs of x of s and h of s. ROC of y of s is given here. It is sigma greater than minus 1. Intersection is between minus 3 and minus 2. They definitely do not overlap. So this is not our correct option. Let us take the next one. Minus 2 less than sigma less than minus 1. Again, ROC of x of s is sigma greater than minus 2 and h of s is between minus 2 and minus 1. So we can write the intersection of ROC of x of s and ROC of h of s is going to be from minus 2 to minus 1. Let us again check if this is included in the ROC of y of s. ROC of y of s is sigma greater than minus 1. What we have over here is from minus 2 to minus 1. Again, they do not overlap, so this is not our correct option. Let us check the last one. Sigma is greater than minus 1. ROC of x of s is sigma greater than minus 3 and that of h of s is sigma greater than minus 1. So we can write the intersection of ROC of x of s and ROC of h of s is going to be from minus 1 to infinity. Let us check it with the ROC of y of s. Y of s has ROC sigma greater than minus 1, which is definitely including minus 1 to infinity. So this is our correct option. So finally we can write transfer function h of s is s plus 3 divided by s plus 1 multiplied by s plus 2 and sigma is greater than minus 1. The question is not to simply find the transfer function, it is to check the stability and causality of the LTI system. We have the transfer function s plus 3 by s plus 1 into s plus 2, sigma is greater than minus 1. This is obviously a rational function. The two poles are minus 1 and minus 2. The rightmost one is minus 1 and sigma is greater than minus 1. So, transfer function is rational and ROC is towards the right of the rightmost pole. So, the system has to be causal. Now, to check the stability, we have learned that if a system is causal, then the only condition it has to satisfy to become also stable is that all the poles should be on the left side of the plane. Here the poles are at minus 1 and minus 2 both on the left side, so the system is also stable. How about we also try to find the differential equation that specifies this system? We have our h of s, that is y of s by x of s plus 3 divided by s plus 1 multiplied by s plus 2. This is s plus 3 divided by s square plus 3s plus 2. From here we can write s square y of s plus 3s y of s plus 2y of s is equal to sx of s plus 3x of s. To get the differential equation, let us take inverse Laplace transform. Inverse Laplace transform of s square y of s is d square y of t by dt square plus 3 times inverse Laplace transform of sy of s is dy of t by dt plus 2 times inverse Laplace transform of y of s y of t. This is equal to inverse Laplace transform of sx of s dx of t by dt plus 3 times that of x of s x of t. This is the linear constant coefficient differential equation that specifies the system given in the question. Let us now solve another problem. We have to determine the transfer function of the given LTI system. The system is causal, its transfer function is rational, it has only two poles. One is at s equal to minus 2 and other is at s equal to 4. If x of t is given as 1, then y of t is 0. Also, the value of impulse response at t equal to 0 plus is 4. From all these information, we have to find the transfer function of the LTI system. The first thing I can see is the system is causal and it has a pole at s equal to 4. S equal to 4 is on the right side of the plane, which means our system is not stable. For a causal system to be stable, the only condition is all poles should be on the left hand side. But here we have one at s equal to 4 or sigma equal to 4. It is on the right side, so our system is unstable. Let's try to make its transfer function h of s. The question doesn't talk about any of the zeros, so we don't know what is on the numerator. I'll just call it p of s, a polynomial of s. It is given there are only two poles, one is at s equal to minus 2 and one is at s equal to 4. So denominator will be like this, s plus 2 multiplied by s minus 4. One pole at minus 2, one pole at plus 4. So we can write it like this, p of s divided by s square minus 2s minus 8. We know that e raised to st is an eigenfunction of an LTI system. So if you're giving e raised to st as an input, the output will be h of s multiplied by the input itself. Let us take s is equal to 0. Then the input will become e raised to 0 and your output will be h of 0 e raised to 0. E raised to 0 is 1. So that means if you're giving the input 1, your output is going to be h of 0, which is your value of transfer function at s equal to 0. It is given in the question, if x of t is 1, then y of t is 0. If we take the Laplace transform, we can write y of 0 is going to be 0. We took y of 0 because the whole thing came from the assumption that s is equal to 0. Now, h of 0 is the ratio of y of 0 and x of 0. x of t here is 1. So obviously x of 0, the Laplace transform is not going to be 0. This is not of the form 0 by 0. So x of 0 is 0. So we can conclude that at s equal to 0, h of s is equal to 0, which means s equal to 0 is a 0 of the transfer function. That means h of s should have an s on its numerator. So let us write h of s by modifying it a little bit. The numerator will be s multiplied by something else, which is again a polynomial of s, so I'll call it q of s, divided by s square minus 2s minus 8. So h of s is of the form s multiplied by q of s divided by s square minus 2s minus 8. Now our task is to find what is q of s. For that, let us use initial value theorem. According to this, limit s tends to infinity h of s will be equal to limit t tends to 0 plus h of t. But over here it is given the value of impulse response at t equal to 0 plus is 4. So this is supposed to be equal to 4. So we get limit s tends to infinity h of s should be equal to 4. So limit s tends to infinity h of s is s multiplied by q of s divided by s square minus 2s minus 8. In the denominator, the highest power of s is s square. So let us divide both numerator and denominator with s square. Then we get limit s tends to infinity q of s divided by s divided by 1 minus 2 by s minus 8 by s square. If you apply s tends to infinity in the denominator, 1 is still 1, 2 by s is 2 by infinity which is 0, 8 by s square is also 8 by infinity which is 0. So this is simply limit s tends to infinity q of s divided by s. And according to the question, this is supposed to be equal to 4. We want q of s divided by s to be equal to 4. That means q of s is equal to 4s. If q of s is 4s, the limit will look like this. Limit s tends to infinity, 4s divided by s and s gets cancelled. So we get limit s tends to infinity 4. 4 is a constant, it doesn't depend on s being infinity or not. So it is going to be 4. Using this, we can write our final transfer function. H of s is equal to s multiplied by q of s is 4s divided by s square minus 2s minus 8. Or we can write it like this. H of s is equal to 4s square divided by s plus 2 into s minus 4. We can even write the ROC. System is causal, so ROC has to be towards the right of the rightmost pole, which is s equal to 4. So ROC is s greater than 4, or we can write sigma greater than 4. Let us solve another problem. There is a system that is stable and causal. Its transfer function h of s is rational. It has a pole at s equal to minus 2. H of s does not have a 0 at the origin. We have to comment on each of these 6 statements. Let us start with the first one. The first one says Fourier transform of h of t e raised to 3t converges. We know the Laplace transform of a function x of t, x of s, is the same as Fourier transform of the function x of t multiplied by e raised to minus sigma t. Comparing with that, here we have Fourier transform of h of t e raised to 3t. That means sigma is minus 3. Now, this will converge if and only if sigma equal to minus 3 is included in the ROC of h of t. It is given in the question the system is causal and it has a pole at s equal to minus 2. I have shown it over here on the s plane. Now, we know for a causal system, ROC has to be towards the right of the rightmost pole. Here, we don't know if there are any more poles. It is just given that it has one pole at s equal to -2. It can have other poles also. But as long as there is a pole at -2, ROC cannot be anywhere towards the left of it. Which means sigma equal to -3 is not included in the ROC of h of s. Therefore, the Fourier transform of h of t e raised to 3t will not converge. The statement is false. Let us take the next statement. Integral from minus infinity to infinity, h of t dt is equal to 0. We know Laplace transform of the impulse function h of s is defined like this: integral from minus infinity to infinity, h of t e raised to minus st dt. If I give s equal to 0, I will get h of 0. It is going to be integral from minus infinity to infinity h of t e raised to minus st will become e raised to 0, which is 1. So dt. This is exactly what we have over here. So all we have to check is if h of 0 is equal to 0 or not. But it is given in the question, h of s does not have a 0 at the origin. So at s equal to 0, h of s is not equal to 0. That is, h of 0 is not equal to 0. So this statement is false. Let us see the next statement. T h of t is the impulse response of a causal and stable system. The system given in the question, which has a transfer function h of s, is stable and causal. So we can write the system with impulse response h of t is stable. But if a system is stable, that means the Fourier transform of its impulse response converges. But if the Fourier transform converges, that means the ROC of h of s contains the j omega axis or sigma equal to 0. Let us now bring in a property that we have learned before. Differentiation in S domain. The inverse Laplace transform of d by ds of x of s is minus tx of t, and ROC is going to be the same as R. Here we want the Laplace transform of th of t. According to this property, ROC of the Laplace transform of th of t is going to be the same as that of h of t. But we know ROC of h of s contains the j omega axis. So ROC of the Laplace transform of th of t will also contain j omega axis. So we got the ROC of the transfer function of a system whose impulse response is th of t contains the j omega axis, which means the system is stable. Now we have to check for the causality. The system given in the question is causal. Its transfer function is h of s, so its impulse response is h of t. Since it is causal, h of t has to be equal to 0 for all t less than 0. But then t multiplied by h of t should also be equal to 0 for all t less than 0. That means another system whose impulse response is th of t will also be causal. So the statement is correct. Let us take the next statement. Laplace transform of d by dt of h of t has at least one pole. Let us bring a property that we have learned before. Laplace transform of the derivative of a function x of t is sx of s, and its ROC will contain the original ROC. Using that, we can write Laplace transform of the derivative of h of t is going to be s multiplied by h of s, and its ROC will contain the original ROC of h of s. We are multiplying h of s with s. If h of s had a pole at s equal to 0, its denominator will have s multiplied by something. That is, if you give s equal to 0, denominator will become 0 and h of s becomes infinite. If you multiply an h of s like this with s, the only thing that can happen is s and s will get cancelled. That is, the pole at s equal to 0 will get cancelled. So we can conclude this. Multiplying h of s by s can only cancel one pole at s equal to 0. We don't know if h of s has a pole at s equal to 0. If it has one, it will be cancelled. But in the question, it is given that it has one pole at s equal to minus 2. If it has a pole at s equal to minus 2, in the denominator, there will be a term s plus 2. Multiplying this with s does not cancel it. So multiplying h of s by s cannot cancel the pole at s equal to minus 2. So I have no idea about the other poles, but Laplace transform of d by dt of h of t will definitely have a pole at s equal to minus 2. So the statement is correct. It does have at least one pole. Let's take the next statement. H of t has finite duration. We know that for a finite duration signal, ROC is the entire S-plane. But over here it is given that h of s has a pole at s equal to minus 2. Poles cannot be included in the ROC. So s equal to minus 2 cannot be included in the ROC, which means ROC is not the entire S-plane, which means h of t does not have finite duration. So the statement is false. Let's take the last statement. H of s is equal to h of minus s. It is given in the question that h of s has a pole at s equal to minus 2. Assume h of s is equal to h of minus s, then h of minus 2 should be equal to h of 2. That means if at s equal to minus 2 you have a pole, at s equal to 2 also you should have a pole. But it is given in the question that the system is causal and stable. For a causal system to be also stable, the condition is all the poles should be on the left hand side of the S-plane. So if the system is causal and stable, then at s equal to plus 2 we cannot have a pole. Therefore, the statement is false. In the last video on properties of Laplace transform, we learned that Laplace transform can be of two types, unilateral and bilateral. In bilateral, we take the integration from minus infinity to infinity, but in unilateral, we take it from 0 minus to infinity. This is actually useful to analyze causal systems that are specified by linear constant coefficient differential equations with non-zero initial conditions. It is useful for causal systems because in causal systems we know h of t is supposed to be equal to 0 for all t less than 0. H of t only exists where t greater than 0, so we can take integration from 0 to infinity. But in case the system has non-zero initial conditions, we have to include that also. That is why the integration is from 0 minus. 0 minus means we are approaching t equal to 0 from the left side. So taking the integration from 0 minus instead of just 0 includes any impulses or other higher order singularities at t equal to 0. We have already discussed what is a singularity. It is a sudden change that is happening to the value of the signal. The relation between a signal x of t and its unilateral Laplace transform x of s can be notated like this. We have a double-sided arrow. On top of it, we have written ul. Or we can write ul of x of t. Let us now compare unilateral Laplace transform and bilateral Laplace transform. The only difference in the definition is in bilateral Laplace transform, the integration is from minus infinity. In unilateral, it is from 0 minus. So the first thing we can say is this. Two signals that differ for t less than 0 but are identical for t greater than or equal to 0 will have different BLT but the same ULT. Because for unilateral Laplace transform, we only consider the values from 0 to infinity. So if the two signals are identical for t greater than or equal to 0, their unilateral Laplace transform will be the same. But since they differ for t less than 0, bilateral Laplace transform is going to be different. But assume we have a signal that is 0 for t less than 0. Then it will have identical bilateral and unilateral Laplace transforms. Because while taking bilateral Laplace transform, you take integration from minus infinity to infinity, but signal is 0 anyways for t less than 0. So technically you are taking integration from 0 to infinity itself. So whatever you get is going to be identical with the unilateral Laplace transform. Now let us learn one of the most important properties of unilateral Laplace transform. We know that signals with zero value for t less than 0 are called right-sided signal. When you're taking unilateral Laplace transform of a signal, you are only integrating from 0 to infinity, which means you are not considering anything that is happening from t less than 0. So it is technically as if the signal has zero value for t less than 0 because you are not considering it anyways. Also, we know for a right-sided signal, ROC is always towards the right of the rightmost pole. That means whenever you're taking unilateral Laplace transform of a signal, its ROC is going to be always to the right of the rightmost pole. In the last video on properties of Laplace transforms, we learned many properties of bilateral Laplace transform. Most of the properties are the same for unilateral Laplace transform also, except there is an important difference in the differentiation property. The bilateral Laplace transform of d by dt of x of t is Sx of s. But the unilateral Laplace transform of d by dt of x of t is Sx of s minus x of 0 minus. Here x of 0 minus is the initial condition of x of t. Let us prove this. Unilateral Laplace transform of x of t, x of s is given like this, integral from 0 minus to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. Then the Laplace transform of dx of t by dt will be integral from 0 minus to infinity dx of t by dt e raised to minus st dt. Inside the integral, we have two functions, d by dt of x of t and e raised to minus st. We are going to use integrating by parts. According to this, integration of the product of u and v is the same as u integral v minus integral of v multiplied by derivative of u. Here we will take e raised to minus st to be u and dx of t by dt to be v. Then the integral becomes, we need to write u first, so e raised to minus st multiplied by integral v. Integral of d by dt of x of t is x of t, giving the limits from 0 minus to infinity, minus integral from 0 minus to infinity, integral of v is x of t multiplied by derivative of u. Derivative of u is derivative of e raised to minus st, that is minus s e raised to minus st dt. Here the integration is with respect to the variable t, that means minus s can come out of the integral. So that term becomes plus s into integral from 0 minus to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. But what we have over here is simply x of s, unilateral Laplace transform of x of t. Let's give limits to the first term. If you give the upper limit, this becomes e raised to minus infinity, which is 0. 0 multiplied by x of infinity, we can take it as 0. Giving the lower limit, this becomes e raised to 0, which is 1. This becomes x of 0 minus. So we get minus 1 multiplied by x of 0 minus plus s multiplied by the integral is x of s. So this is simply equal to s x of s minus x of 0 minus. And that is exactly what we have written over here. The Laplace transform is not simply Sx of s like in bilateral Laplace transform. Here we have Sx of s minus x of 0 minus. X of 0 minus here is the initial condition of x of t. Assume that now we want the unilateral Laplace transform of the second derivative of x of t. It is s square x of s minus sx of 0 minus x dash of 0 minus. X dash of 0 minus is the derivative of x of 0 minus. Let us prove this. We already learned that the unilateral Laplace transform of first derivative of x of t is sx of s minus x of 0 minus. What we want now is that of d square x of t by dt square. This is actually the derivative of this one. So its unilateral Laplace transform is going to be s multiplied by the Laplace transform of this, that is sx of s minus x of 0 minus for dx of t by dt we took x of 0 minus, that is one order less. So for d square by dt square x of t we'll take one order less, that is d by dt of x of 0 minus. This is equal to s square x of s minus s x of 0 minus x dash of 0 minus, which is exactly what we have over here. Since we are also taking the initial condition into consideration, we can take the total response of a system to be the sum of response due to the input and response due to the initial conditions. The output of the system when the input is 0, that is the output due to only the initial conditions, is called zero state response. Similarly, the output of the system when the initial conditions are considered 0 is called zero input response. This is the response of the system only due to the input. Let us solve a problem to better understand it. Here we have to determine the zero state response and zero input response of an LTI system, and the system is specified by this differential equation: d square y by dt square plus 5 dy by dt plus 6y is equal to dx by dt plus 6x. It's also given y of 0 minus is 1, y dash of 0 minus is 2, and the input x of t is u of t. Let's write down the most important thing here. Input x of t is u of t, which is the unit step function. A unit step function looks like this. It is 0 from minus infinity to 0, and it is 1 from 0 to infinity. So if you approach t equal to 0 from the left side like this, you can see that at t equals 0 minus u of t is 0. So we can write x of 0 minus is equal to 0. Let's also write the Laplace transform of u of t. X of s is 1 by s. ROC is sigma greater than 0. Now, to write the zero state response, we have to ignore all the initial conditions. That is, we'll ignore y of 0 minus, we'll ignore y dash of 0 minus, and x of 0 minus, which is 0 anyways. So let us take a Laplace transform of our differential equation. Laplace transform of d square y by dt square, ignoring the initial conditions, will be s square y of s plus 5 times Laplace transform of dy by dt is s y of s plus 6 times Laplace transform of y of t, 6 y of s. This is equal to Laplace transform of dx by dt is sx of s plus 6 times Laplace transform of x of t, x of s. Combining the terms, we get y of s multiplied by s square plus 5s plus 6 is equal to x of s multiplied by s plus 6. But we already found x of s is 1 by s. Let us substitute that over here. So we will get s plus 6 divided by s. Now we can easily write what is y of s. Y of s is s plus 6 divided by s multiplied by s square plus 5s plus 6. Now s square plus 5s plus 6 is s plus 2 multiplied by s plus 3. So this becomes s plus 6 divided by s into s plus 2 into s plus 3. Now you will have to use partial fraction expansion. If you do that, you will get y of s is equal to 1 by s minus 2 by s plus 2 plus 1 by s plus 3. To get zero state response, all you have to do is take inverse Laplace transform. So let's write y zero state response of t is equal to inverse of 1 by s is u of t minus 2 times inverse of 1 by s plus 2 e raised to minus 2t u of t plus inverse of 1 by s plus 3 e raised to minus 3t u of t. Now we know inverse of 1 by s can be u of t or minus u of minus t, but I have taken u of t. Inverse of 1 by s plus 2 can be e raised to minus 2t u of t or minus e raised to minus 2t u of minus t. Here also there are two options, but I have taken the right-sided version of all of them because in unilateral transform we have to take the right-sided version. The integral is from 0 to infinity. We can combine all these terms and write 1 minus 2 e raised to minus 2t plus e raised to minus 3t multiplied by u of t. So this is the zero state response. Let us find the zero input response now. For that we have to ignore the input x of t, but we have to take into consideration the initial conditions. Y of 0 minus, y dash of 0 minus and x of 0 minus have to be taken. But x of 0 minus is 0 anyways, so we can ignore that. Let us take the Laplace transform. The first term is d square y by dt square. Considering the initial condition, its Laplace transform is going to be s square y of s minus s y of 0 minus y dash of 0 minus. The next term is 5 times dy by dt. Its Laplace transform will be 5 times s y of s minus y of 0 minus plus the next term is 6y of t. So 6y of s. This is equal to, there is dx by dt and 6x, but we are ignoring the input, so we'll simply write 0. Combining the terms, we can write y of s multiplied by s square plus 5s plus 6 minus sy of 0 minus y dash of 0 minus 5y of 0 minus is equal to 0. In the question it is given y of 0 minus is 1, y dash of 0 minus is 2. Let us substitute them over here. Then we get this. Minus 2 minus 5 is minus 7. Now we have minus s minus 7. Let us take it to the right hand side of the equation. So we get y of s multiplied by s square plus 5s plus 6s s plus 7. So y of s is s plus 7 divided by s square plus 5s plus 6. Or we can write it like this, s plus 7 divided by s plus 2 multiplied by s plus 3. If you use partial fraction expansion, this can be written like this. 5 divided by s plus 2 minus 4 divided by s plus 3. Now, to get the zero input response, y, z, I, r as a function of time, we have to take the inverse Laplace transform of this. So, 5 times inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 2, considering it is right-sided, is e raised to minus 2t u of t minus 4 times inverse of 1 by s plus 3 e raised to minus 3t u of t. We can combine it and write 5 e raised to minus 2t minus 4 e raised to minus 3t multiplied by u of t. Let us also find out the total response of the system. The total response y of t is going to be the sum of zero state response and zero input response. I have written zero state response over here and zero input response over here. So to get the total response, let's add them. 1 minus 2 e raised to minus 2t plus e raised to minus 3t plus 5 e raised to minus 2t minus 4 e raised to minus 3t multiplied by u of t. We can add these two. Minus 2 e raised to minus 2t plus 5 e raised to minus 2t is 3 e raised to minus 2t. Also, e raised to minus 3t minus 4 e raised to minus 3t is minus 3 e raised to minus 3t. So, this becomes 1 plus 3 e raised to minus 2t minus 3 e raised to minus 3t u of t. Now, the zero input response, which is the response of the system only due to its initial conditions, can also be called natural response. The zero state response, which is the response for the input, can also be called forced response. Now, assume we want to find out the value of y of t at t is equal to infinity. At t equal to infinity, y of t will become like this. The first term is 1 u of t. It is going to be the same because u of t is 1 from t equal to 0 to infinity. So we'll get u of t. The second term is 3 e raised to minus 2t u of t. If you give t equal to infinity, this becomes e raised to minus infinity, which is 0. So plus 0. The next term also has e raised to minus 3t. If you give t equal to minus infinity, this becomes 0. Plus 0. Therefore, y of t at t equal to infinity is u of t. We call this the steady state response. To show that, let's call it y ss of t. Let us solve another problem. The transfer function of an LTI system is given. It is s minus 2 divided by s square plus 4s plus 4. We have to find the steady state response due to an input for u of t. Our input is for u of t, so its Laplace transform x of s is 4 by s. And ROC is sigma greater than 0. Laplace transform of the output y of s is going to be the product of x of s and h of s. So it will be 4 by s multiplied by s minus 2 divided by s square plus 4s plus 4s s plus 2 whole square. So this is 4s minus 2 divided by s into s plus 2 whole square. Let us use partial fraction expansion to write it in this form: a by s plus b by s plus 2 plus c by s plus 2 whole square. A will be equal to limit s tends to, the pole corresponding to a is 0, s multiplied by y of s. So that will be limit s tends to 0, 4 into s minus 2 divided by s plus 2 whole square. If you give s equal to 0, this becomes minus 2. Now to get b, we'll take limit s tends to, the pole corresponding to b is minus 2, d by ds of s plus 2 whole square multiplied by y of s. We are doing this because at s equal to minus 2, a pole is being repeated. Now this will be equal to limit s tends to minus 2, d by ds of s plus 2 whole square multiplied by y of s is 4 into s minus 2 divided by s. So this becomes limit s tends to minus 2, derivative of 4 into s minus 2 by s. If you do that, you will get 2 by s square. Now let us give s equal to minus 2. So this is 1 by 2. The value of b is 1 by 2. Now we want c. C is limit s tends to, the pole corresponding to c is minus 2, s plus 2 whole square multiplied by y of s. That is limit s tends to minus 2, 4 into s minus 2 divided by s. Let us give the value s equal to minus 2. So we get this is 8. C is equal to 8. Using all of this, we get y of s is minus 2 by s plus 1 by 2 times s plus 2 plus 8 divided by s plus 2 whole square. To get y of t, we need to take inverse Laplace transform. Minus 2 times inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s is u of t plus 1 by 2 times inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 2 e raised to minus 2t u of t plus 8 inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 2 whole square is t e raised to minus 2t u of t. We only need the steady state response. That is at t tends to be infinity. The first term is minus 2 u of t. It is still going to be minus 2 u of t because u of t is going to be 1 from t equals 0 to infinity. So y of t will be minus 2 u of t The second term has an e raised to minus 2t there. Giving t equals infinity, this becomes e raised to minus infinity, which is 0. Third term also has e raised to minus 2t in it. This will become e raised to minus infinity, which is 0. So the steady state response is minus 2 u of t. So that's all about it for today. See you in the next video. And don't forget to subscribe.